This week in Jamaica Now, pressure. Government facing mounting backlash over response to Jamcovid breaches. Almost here, Jamaica to get COVID vaccine from India next week. Beds needed.
The country is facing a serious challenge as it relates to availability of hospital space.
And hear how a young Jamaican innovator came out on top at an international competition.
I was about, 6, 7? I started watching tutorials and look at me now.
I'm Jovan Johnson and this is Jamaica Now. Pressure continues to mount on the government over the security of its Jamcovid website and application, with more allegations emerging of vulnerabilities, fueling calls for transparency. On Monday, TechCrunch, the online American newspaper that first reported on the breaches, claimed that a researcher found that a file was left on the server which reportedly exposed passwords to access back-end systems such as databases and mail servers, which are connected to the Jamcovid-19 application. In a thinly veiled threat, the Dushan Savadia-led Amber Group said on Tuesday that reports of a second breach were defamatory. Mr. Savadia, Amber's founder and CEO, however, admitted that a file containing the alleged data was on the system, but claimed that its contents were expired. And in its own statement, the Ministry of National Security indicated that the investigation into the breach surrounding the Jamcovid application has not so far revealed any evidence that the vulnerabilities identified were exploited for malicious data extraction or leakage. It added that a comprehensive review of all aspects of the Jamcovid website and application and associated databases is being undertaken and changes implemented with a view to further hardening security and strengthening all security features. The National Security Council, chaired by Prime Minister Andrew Holness, reported on Thursday that there was unauthorized access to the application and that support has been requested from foreign investigators. The government also said the Jamcovid database has been migrated without giving any further details on that process. But this has not calmed heightened public scrutiny, which has seen opposition leader Mark Golding demanding that Prime Minister Andrew Holness lay bare the contract between Jamaica and Amber. Mr. Golding, an attorney at law, also wants to scrutinize the contract to see whether there are features that do not adequately protect the interest of the Jamaican people. Meanwhile, the government has declined to confirm whether it had rejected a proposal for the Jamcovid website to be managed by eGov, the State Information Systems Agency. According to Matthew Samuda, Senator and Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of National Security, with investigations underway into the security vulnerability of the site, it is too early to address that matter.
If it's found, for instance, that any of the actions that were to have been taken weren't taken in a timely fashion, then accountability will fall wherever it needs to fall. That's the openness and the commitment of the government. If we are negligent, if there's some sort of issue, then we will stand up to it. But I think it is way too early while there are several assessments going on and full investigations going on to determine what is the state of play. And because those assessments are going on, I don't know that you could expect me to go much into it at this juncture.
Meanwhile, Jamaica is to next week receive a donation of COVID-19 vaccines from India as the island aims to roll out its program to inoculate citizens. In making the announcement on Friday, the Indian High Commissioner to Jamaica said his country has committed to providing 500,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccines to Caribbean Community CARICOM countries and that Jamaica's share is now ready to be shipped.
The vaccines should have been here by now as we speak. However, as we are talking of the extraordinary times and situations, and due to the mounting pressure and limited cargo space in the limited sphere of flights, the shipment could not be scheduled on time as expected. This has gone beyond our control.
The Health and Wellness Ministry had previously stated that it expected to receive 50,000 doses of vaccines from India. Meanwhile, Dr. Christopher Tufton this week told the country that the government was moving with alacrity to boost bed space and staffing at public hospitals amid a crunch brought on by COVID.
The present state of hospitalization has become for us alarmingly high, and it is something we have spoken about in the past, that if we get to a stage where we become overwhelmed, and that's when we see the real consequences of the COVID pandemic. We have currently some 13 of 22 hospitals across the island at the red alert phase, which means that they have a greater than 84% occupancy level for its isolation capacity. 9 of these hospitals are at 100% or greater capacity.
And the island-wide curfew starting at 8 p.m. and ending at 5 a.m. daily has been extended to March 1. The public gathering limit of 10 persons has been extended to February 28. The Court of Appeal on Friday overturned a corruption-related conviction of former senior cop James Forbes and ordered that $800,000 he paid as penalty be returned to him. In 2014, Mr. Forbes was found guilty of attempting to pervert the course of justice in the traffic ticket bribery case involving businessman Bruce Bicknell and politician Darrell Vaz, who both were freed. The Court of Appeal said it hesitantly agreed that Mr. Forbes did not interfere in charges being dropped against Mr. Bicknell, although it criticized the admired cop for convening a mediation to settle the case. The court also said it was inexplicable that the lower court judge allowed the matter to go to trial. A new prison expected to replace the Tower Street Adult Correctional Center is to be constructed in St. Catherine at an estimated cost of $10 billion. The project will be executed by the Development Bank of Jamaica, which has been tasked with securing funding for its construction and structural design.
It's going to be a massive project. I suspect it will cost in the region of up to $10 billion, but I'm not giving you a budget item because I have to go through the process to accommodate 3,000 including high security personnel. And the DBJ does these things well. It will be done certainly as some with local money. That's what we can say. And there's enough money local to do it once it's structured properly.
The news comes 2 weeks after former Commissioner of Police Owen Ellington told the Gleaner that a modern prison facility did not have to be as expensive as had been forecast. Chief Justice Brian Sykes has pushed back at reports that the 9-month sentence imposed on a St. Ann man who pleaded guilty to illegal possession of firearm and ammunition has angered the police. Jamar Bartley, who was held with the illegal possession of firearm and ammunition during a joint police military operation in St. Ann last July, was sentenced in the St. Ann Parish Court on Tuesday. He'll be released in a month because he was in custody for 8 months awaiting trial. The perceived slap-on-the-wrist sentence evoked sharp criticisms in law enforcement circles amid claims by senior police investigators that Mr. Bartley is a member of a feared gang operating in the parish. However, Justice Sykes has challenged the police to provide evidence of Mr. Bartley's involvement in a criminal gang. Justice Sykes also said there was a limit to the sentence that a parish judge can impose, as well as a legislation that provide discount for persons who plead guilty. Jamaica has been urged by a senior technology expert to begin teaching coding to 3-year-olds and even younger children who are just learning to speak in order to tap talent in an emerging industry here. That recommendation has been stirred by the success of Jamaican innovator Dominic Darby, who triumphed over 800 competitors from 70 countries to cop a top prize at the International X-Prize Coding Games Challenge.
Any of the potential and future coders out there, you should definitely look for help on the internet. There are many tutorials that will help you get started. And trust me, they can really help you fly off, because when I was about, 6, 7, I started watching tutorials, and look at me now.
The 11-year-old was introduced to coding and the platform Scratch at age 6 during a summer program held at the University of the West Indies. The challenge, created by X-Prize, a non-profit organization based in California that encourages technological development through competition, registered more than 3,000 innovators aged 10 to 18 for the 2020 competition. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on your notification and subscribe today. I'm Jovan Johnson, and before we go, we hear from the Minister of National Security, Dr. Horace Chang, on the matter of the states of emergency.
Is it that the government is holding off on declaring further SOEs pending the outcome of the appeal?
A short answer, yeah, because that, although it was not in front of the judge, he has made some comments. I would like to go to the Court of Appeal to get their call. We are confident we will be successful in dealing with it there. Of course, we may have to look at some of the regulations, which is a different issue as we proceed. But if it's absolutely necessary, we'll still consider doing it for the 14 days still available to us on the law. But
what do you regard as absolutely necessary?
Well, again, it goes back to the level of lawlessness and home taking place in the community. We have had gangs taking over communities, literally capturing them and murdering on people and gangs burning down, running people out of their homes. When that happens, we have to look at the community seriously. Of course, you do the more strong policing before. Somewhere like Baritone, when the ski mask gang was active, at special deployment of JDF and policing there was able to take care of that gang. It doesn't happen in all of them. In the certain urban centers where they are more ingrained, you may have to go to a state of a public emergency.